Hello everybody, this is Refresh, and I'm here to bring you a battle between two Theros Beyond Death sealed decks. We have a Gruul deck on the left and a Selesnya deck on the right, and if you check in the description box below, you can see links to the deck builds of each one, and the Battle of the Horde challenge deck from Born of the Gods. We'll be playing two games, first on normal difficulty with 3 turns before the Horde attacks, and then on hard mode. And for these games, we'll be using these 3 hero cards. The first one is the Harvester. It says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Then we have the Explorer, which says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. And finally, we have the Vanquisher, which says your starting hand size is increased by 1, your maximum hand size is increased by 1. Because I only have 1 copy of each of these cards, we're going to be applying them to both of the decks simultaneously. And we'll go ahead and get started right away by drawing 8 cards apiece. Gruul draws a Forest, a Mountain, Underworld Ragehound, Tessin Training, Nylea's Huntmaster, Forest, and Forest. I don't love this hand, but because we have some things that we can play, I think we'll keep it. Selesnya draws a Chainweb Arachnir, Sunmane Pegasus, Plains, Moss Viper, Nessian Wanderer, Plains, Captivating Unicorn, and Temple of Plenty. I think because we have some things that we can play, we'll also keep this hand as well. Go ahead and get started. Because this is multiplayer, we can draw the first turn. So Gruul will draw a Warbriar Blessing, and Selesnya will draw a Voracious Taipan. Selesnya will play the Temple of Plenty. It is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 1. You can tap it to add green or white. We'll scry 1, and we'll take the Warbriar Blessing, and we'll stick it on the bottom. And then we'll also play a Plains over here. We can't cast anything, so we'll stop there. Gruul will play a Mountain and a Forest over here. We'll tap both and we'll play the Underworld Ragehound. This is a 3/1 Elemental Hound. It attacks each combat if able. You can escape it for 3 in a red and exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard, and it escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. Then at the end of the first turn, we'll use the Harvester. Gruul will draw a Forest and discard the Forest. Selesnya will draw a Forest, and we will discard the Chainweb Arachnir. And then we'll untap. Gruul will draw a Forest, and Selesnya will draw a Sentinel's Eyes. We'll play a Forest over here and a Plains over here, and then we'll play 2 Forests over here. Selesnya will tap out, tapping the Temple of Plenty for green to play the Voracious Taipan. There's a 4/4 Snake Beast with escape 5 green, exile 4 other cards from your graveyard. It escapes with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. And Gruul will tap out as well, and we'll cast Nylea's Huntmaster. This is a 4/3 Centaur Shaman. When it enters the battlefield, target creature you control gets +X+O until end of turn, where X is your devotion to green. We'll give the Underworld Ragehound +X+O until end of turn, and then making it a 4/1. The Ragehound will attack for 4. We mill a Plundered Statue. It says, when it is put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player draws a card. Gruul will draw a Forest, Selesnya will draw a Reverent Hoplite, and then we will pass the turn. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Gruul draws a Mystic Repeal, and we'll put the Mystic Repeal in the graveyard. Selesnya draws a Plains, and we will take the Moss Viper and put that in the graveyard. We'll untap. This is the final turn before the Horde attacks. Gruul will draw a Mountain. Selesnya will draw a Plains. We'll play both of the Plains over here, and we'll play a Forest and a Mountain over here. We'll spend 2 greens over here to cast Tessin Training. This is an aura. Enchants creature you control. When Tessin Training enters the battlefield, draw a card, and enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has trample. We'll put that on the Huntmaster, making it a 5/3. We'll draw a card, which is Clothis, God of Destiny. Selesnya will spend 2 mana to cast the Nessian Wanderer. This is a 1/3 Satyr Scout. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Then we'll spend 4. We'll cast the Sunmane Pegasus. This is a 2/3 Pegasus with flying, and for 1 and a white, it gains Vigilance and Lifelink until end of turn. We will go to combat, and we'll attack with the Huntmaster and the Underworld Ragehound. We'll also attack with the Voracious Taipan for a total of 12 damage. And then Gruul will tap 3 mana and we'll cast Clothis, God of Destiny. This is a 4/5 legendary enchantment god. It's indestructible, and as long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, Clothis isn't a creature. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a land card, add red or green. Otherwise, you gain 2 life, and Clothis deals 2 damage to each opponent. Clothis is not yet a creature because we need 1 more devotion to red and green. And then we'll pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde is going to cast the top 3 cards. We get a Mogus is Chosen. It's a 5/4 Minotaur and enters the battlefield tapped and attacks each turn if able. A Voracious Reaver. It's a 2/3 Minotaur with haste and attacks each turn if able. And then we have a Minotaur Younghorn. It's a 2/2 Minotaur with haste and attacks each turn if able. These 2 are going to be attacking. The Sunmane Pegasus will block the Younghorn, and the Nessian Wanderer will block the Voracious Reaver, meaning that we take no damage and the Younghorn will die. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Gruul draws a Mountain and will discard a Forest. Celestia draws a Tyrannica, a Crowan Veteran, and we will discard the Sentinel's Eyes. Then we'll untap. Gruul draws a Mountain. Celestia draws a Birth of Meletus. Oh, it's the beginning of the pre-combat main phase as well, and we will exile the Minotaur Younghorn to do 2 damage to the Horde and give ourselves 2 life to take us up to 22. Gruul will play a Mountains and a Forest, and then we'll tap one of each of these to cast Warbriar Blessing. This is an aura, a chance creature you control, and when it enters the battlefield, enchanted creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, and it gets +0/+2, making the Huntmaster a 5/5. We'll fight the Voracious Reaver, killing it. We'll spend 2 mana over here to cast Birth of Meletus. This is an enchantment saga. Search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library, and then you can create a 0/4 colorless wall artifact creature token with Defender, and then you'll get 2 life. We'll go ahead and grab a plains. Here it is. We'll shuffle. And then we'll play the plains. We'll tap 5 mana and cast the Captivating Unicorn. It's a 4/4 unicorn, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature an opponent controls. We'll go to combat and we'll attack with the Underworld Rage Hound, the Nylea's Huntmaster, the Nessian Wanderer. Oh, this also triggers. We should have revealed 3. We'll put this in our hand and put this at the bottom. The Sunmane Pegasus and the Voracious Taipan. All of these will be attacking for a total of 15 damage. Alright, in order, the Vitality Salve. When it is put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player returns a creature card from his or her graveyard to the battlefield. There are no creature cards here. And we will take the Moss Viper, return it to the battlefield. We also have a Massacre Totem. When it is put into a graveyard from anywhere, put the top 7 cards of the Horde's library into its graveyard. And then we will pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde will untap. Then I'll cast the top 3 cards. First one is a Reckless Minotaur. It's a 4/1 Minotaur with haste and attacks each turn if able. At the beginning of the end step, destroy Reckless Minotaur. We have a Mogus is Chosen and a Minotaur Younghorn. These 3 attack. We'll trade the Moss Viper for the Mogus is Chosen. We'll block the Minotaur Younghorn with the Captivating Unicorn. And we'll just take 4 from the Reckless Minotaur, taking us down to 18. The Moss Viper dies, as do all 3 of these. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Gruul draws a Scophos 4-liter. We'll discard the Mountain. Celestia draws a Forest. We'll discard the Forest. Then we'll untap. Gruul draws an Oread of Mountain's Blaze, and Celestia draws a Daybreak Chimera. Celestia will play a Forest. This will trigger to 2, getting us a wall. And then we will play the Scophos War Leader. That'll give us 7 mana symbols. So the Clothis is now a creature. We'll exile one of these to give us 2 life to take us back up to 20 and deal 2 damage to the Horde. And then we will go to combat. We will attack with everything that can attack for a total of 23 damage. We mill 2 refreshing elixirs. It says when it is put into a graveyard from anywhere, each player gains 5 life. That's 2 players times 5 times 2, and that is 20 life. Taking us up to 40. We also mill a plundered statue, so each player will draw. Gruul draws a Skola Grove Dancer, and Selesnya draws a Nyxborn Colossus. Then we have Altar of Mogus, which says when the Altar of Mogus is put into a graveyard from anywhere, the Horde sacrifices 2 Minotaurs. That causes them to sacrifice their last remaining creatures, giving the Theros Beyond deck sealed decks a win. We'll be right back for hard mode. Alright, it's time for hard mode. We only have 2 turns before the Minotaurs attack. We'll go ahead and draw 8 cards apiece. Gruul draws a Hyrax Tower Scout, Final Flare, Forest, Underworld Ragehound, Forest, Skola Grove Dancer, Mountain, and Mystic Repeal. I think that this is an okay hand to keep. Selesnya draws a Return to Nature, Daybreak Chimera, Voracious Taipan, Nyxborn Colossus, Elysian Caryatid, Forest, Nessian Wanderer, and Forest. I think I wouldn't normally keep this hand, but because we have the Elysian Caryatid, we can, and most of the hand is green anyways, so we will keep this as well. We'll go ahead and draw for our first turn. So Gruul draws an Oread of Mountain's Blaze, and Selesnya draws a Birth of Meletis. We cannot cast Birth of Meletis, so we'll start by playing 2 forests over here. We'll tap both of these to play the Elysian Caryatid to get us our additional mana. Meanwhile, Gruul will play a Mountain and Forest. We'll tap them both to play the Underworld Ragehound, and then at the end of the turn we'll use the Harvester. Gruul will draw a Forest, and we will discard the Mystic Repeal. Selesnya will draw a Transcendent Envoy, and we will discard the Daybreak Chimera. We'll untap. Gruul draws a Warbriar Blessing. Selesnya draws a Revoke Existence. Really glad we played that Elysian Caryatid because we cannot cast anything. Gruul will play 2 forests, and we'll go to combat. Since we don't need the white mana right now, we'll go ahead and attack with both these for 4. And then Gruul will tap 2 and cast the Skola Grove Dancer. This is a 2/2 enchantment Satyr Druid. Whenever a land is put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 1 life. And for 2 and a green, put the top card of your library into your graveyard. Then we'll also tap these 2, and we'll cast the Oread of Mountain's Blaze. It's a 1/3 enchantment Nymph. And for 2 and a red, you can discard a card to draw a card. Meanwhile, over here, we'll tap these 2 and we'll cast a Nessian Wanderer again. And then we will pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde is going to cast the top 3 cards. The first one is a Minotaur Goreseeker. There's a 3/2 Minotaur with haste that attacks each turn if able. Then we have another Minotaur Goreseeker. And then we have a Descent Upon the Prey. Whenever a Minotaur attacks this turn, it gains first strike until end of turn and must be blocked this turn if able. So that's bad. These 2 are attacking. They both have first strike and they must be blocked. We're going to go ahead and put these 2 creatures in the way, and they'll both get immediately killed by the Minotaur Goreseekers. And then that is going to be it for the Horde. We'll use the Harvester, and Gruul will draw a Portent of Betrayal, and we will discard the Portent of Betrayal. Selesnya will draw a Plains, and we will discard the Revoke Existence. We'll untap. Gruul will draw a Forest. Selesnya will draw a Plains. Play both of the Plains, and then we will play the Forest over here. Selesnya will tap out and will cast the Voracious Taipan. Gruul will spend 3 mana and cast the Hyrax Tower Scout. There's a 3/3 human scout. When it enters the battlefield, untap target creature. We're not going to untap anything. And then we will tap these remaining 2 to cast Warbriar Blessing. We'll target the Hyrax Tower Scout, making it 3/5. It'll fight one of the Minotaur Goreseekers, killing it. And then we'll go to combat. We'll attack with these, as well as the Underworld Ragehound, for a total of 5 damage. We have a Vitality Salve going to the graveyard, which means that we will get back a creature. There are none here. And there is a Daybreak Chimera, which will enter the battlefield here. And then we have a Massacre Totem, milling 7 more. Then we have a Plundered Statue, so we'll draw a card each. Gruul draws a Flummox Cyclops, and Selesnya will draw a Sentinel's Eyes. And then we'll pass the turn to the Horde. The Horde will untap, and then we'll cast the top 3 cards. The first one is a Phobos Reaver. The second one is a Mogus' Chosen. And the final one is a Minotaur Younghorn. All 3 of these will be attacking. The Typhon will block the Minotaur Goreseeker, and the Hyrax Tower Scout will block the Phobos Reaver, and the Minotaur Goreseeker will be blocked by the Daybreak Chimera, killing all three of these. At the end of the turn, we will use the Harvester. Gruul draws a mountain, and we'll discard the Final Flare. Selesnya draws a forest, and we will discard the Sentinel's Eyes. We'll untap. Gruul will draw a Clothis, God of Destiny. Selesnya will draw a Hyrax Tower Scout. We'll play the forest over here, and we'll play the mountain over here. And then we'll go to combat, and we'll attack with everything, except for the Elysian Caryatid. That's 14 damage. We have a Refreshing Elixir, and another Refreshing Elixir. That is 20 life, taking us up to 40 life. And then on the second main phase, Gruul will tap 4, and we'll cast the Flummox Cyclops. Selesnya will tap 2, we'll cast the Birth of Meletus. We'll grab a Plains, put that into our hand, shuffle. Then the Wanderer will trigger, and then we'll grab a Forest, we'll put that in our hand. We can play another Plains. We'll tap everything out. Cast the Nyxborn Colossus. This is a 6/7 enchantment giant. And we'll trigger the Nessian Wanderer again. Grab the Temple of Plenty. And then we will pass to the Horde. They'll untap and cast the top 3 cards. The first one is a Phobos Reaver. The second one is a Minotaur Younghorn. And the last one is a Phobos Reaver. All of these will attack. The Colossus will eat the Mogus's Chosen. The rest will come through, hitting us for 6 damage, taking us down to 34. The Chosen will die. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Gruul draws a mountain and discards the mountain. Selesnya will draw a Plains, and we will discard the Forest. Then we'll untap. Gruul will draw a mountain. Selesnya will draw a Forest. We will play the Temple of Plenty. It'll enter battlefield tapped. We'll scry. We'll take the forest and stick it on the bottom. We'll also play another Plains. And then we'll go to combat. Oh, this goes triggers, getting us a wall. We'll go to combat and we'll attack with everything. That's 25 damage going through. That's everything. The Horde gets an Altar of Mogus triggered. That will cause them to sacrifice these 2. They get a Plundered Statue trigger, so Gruul will draw a Incendiary Oracle, and Selesnya will draw a Setessan Training. And then on the second main phase, Gruul will spend 3 mana and cast Clothis, God of Destiny. We'll spend 2 more mana and cast the Incendiary Oracle. This is a 2/2 human shaman, and for 1 red it gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and if a creature dealt damage by Incendiary Oracle this turn would die, exile it instead. We'll spend 3 mana over here to cast the Hyrax Tower Scout. We'll untap the Nyxborn Colossus. We'll spend 2 more mana to cast the Transcendent Envoy. This is a 1/2 enchantment griffin with flying, and aura spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. We'll go ahead and look at the top 3 from the Nessian Wanderer, and we'll put the Plains into our hand, stick the rest on the bottom. And I don't think we need to do anything else, even though we can. We'll go to the Horde's turn, they'll untap and they'll attack, and we'll run right into the Nyxborn Colossus and die. And the Theros Beyond Death Seal decks defeat the Horde on hard mode as well. Let me know what your thoughts were about the games. If I missed any rules or made any misplays, let me know so I can learn from your wisdom. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.